Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison, and with me today is Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
Hi, Jim. How are you today?
Good. Well, it's been a while since we've been doing one of these. Through the magic of podcasting, none of our listeners will notice because it'll be just a week later, but it's been a while. We're using a new platform through Zoom. Hopefully, it improves our video quality for those that are interested. Check out our YouTube page and like us there, and you can see it there. But I'm really excited today how we have Heather Sullivan, who's the head of learning and development at Aloft, joining us. Let me bring her in.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Jim. Hal.
Hey,
Thank you for
Heather, how are
having me
you?
today. I'm
Heather,
doing
thank you.
well.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been quite some time since you and I have seen each other. I think it's last month out in Colorado Springs at the ACTS conference. Where
Yeah.
did anything special happen at the ACTS conference?
Oh, it was a fantastic event.
Was there
I
were
I
there any
had
awards given out at the ACTS conference?
I had a really great event. Yes, I was
Heather,
awarded.
Heather was awarded Appraiser of the Year by the National
Yeah.
Association of Appraisers, which is pretty impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely. I'm still through the roof. It made my day. You have no idea. So can't
That
get
is
this smile off my face.
that is so good. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of
Thank
the
you.
National Association of Appraisers for picking you. Great choice. So, I know you've been on the Buzzcast before. You and I have spent quite a bit of time together. We've talked on the same panel a number of times. But for those in our listener group that don't know who Heather Sullivan is, tell us who Heather Sullivan is.
Well, that's always the hardest question, right? Well, I'm Heather Sullivan. I'm a certified residential appraiser. I'm licensed in a number of states, primarily the Pacific Northwest. I am also a serving member of the Appraiser Standards Board, working on USPAP related things. I will not be speaking in that capacity today, but really enjoy the role and all the thought process that goes into it. It's been a lot of fun to be active at that level.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, how long have you been in the appraisal business?
Gosh, it's been almost 25 years now. I've had a number of different roles. Right now, I serve as the head of learning and development for Aloft, which is really my happy place. I love interacting with appraisers and talking about methodology and concepts and teaching others how to dive deeper. I'm very analytical, so it's always fun to um, be able to do that in a safe place. Education's such a safe place for learning and asking great questions. So it's been a lot of fun to be in that role.
Awesome. Well, let's do this. Let's take a real quick break and we'll hear from one of our sponsors, and then we will be right back.
The Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, is a landmark text that reflects the depth and breadth of appraisal knowledge. Each entry, definition, and reference has been painstakingly researched and designed to reflect an expert understanding of issues that currently impact the profession. The new dictionary is an essential authoritative resource for all appraisers. The dictionary is divided into two sections, an alphabetical listing of terms directly related to real estate appraisal, and an addendum with topical glossaries and compilations of terms used by related real estate professionals. Find it at appraisalinstitute.org/dictionary7.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host, and I'm joined today by Heather Sullivan. Heather, thank you for taking the time to be here. We're very excited to have you on the show. You know, one of the biggest issues we've seen recently from the GSEs is they're asking appraisers to support their adjustment. And it's kind of shocking to me sometimes that appraisers will say, well, I've got the support in my work file. Why do they want to see it? It's like, yeah, you've already got it. Maybe show it. But what is the issue that the GSEs are trying to address with showing support for your adjustments?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things involved. I think technology has caught up with us, a lot of the data analytics that is available. And so I think our role has changed a little bit in that we're inundated with data and statistics and trends. And a lot of times, if we don't show our work, explain how we got to our conclusion, our adjustment, our like final opinion, it doesn't help our clients understand why they should trust ours over all the other information that they have access to. And so I think we're being asked to provide that in the appraisal report more and more because they're really trying to understand the market and make sure that what they're relying on for their lending decisions is the most credible, is the most market driven. And so we're just at a different stage with technology and visibility into what we do that we don't need it in our work file. What's the point of it being in our work file? It doesn't do anybody any good. I don't need it. I was the one doing the analysis. So to make sure that we share that information, I think is a big step forward with all the conversations we're having throughout the industry.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, for adjustments, if we were to talk about one specific adjustment, let's talk about GLA adjustment. So an appraiser says, I've used linear regression to derive my support for GLA adjustment. Another appraiser says, I've used paired sales, and here's the indicated adjustment. The feedback that I've gotten from both of the GSEs is that sometimes you see that I've done this, and here's my adjustment. But the adjustment is in an area where the homes are selling for $500 a square foot, and the adjustment for the GLA is $20 a square foot. Yeah. And the questions I'm getting is like, where does that number come from? It doesn't seem to make sense in the context of this neighborhood, what's going on. If the appraiser would show their linear regression, would show their paired sales, they'd be more comfortable with it. And if it ends up being 20, I think they'd be fine with that. But I'm just going to guess in neighborhoods with $700 a square foot, a $20 GLA adjustment is just on its face a little bit suspect.
Yeah, that test of reasonableness is a big part of. I was a reviewer for 10 plus years, and usually I would just start with the question, does it make sense?
Yeah.
And if it didn't make sense, then that's where I would dive into, okay, show me how you got it. Does that make sense? And more, our adjustments, we look at it as an individual line item thing. So GLA adjustment. So we look at a GLA adjustment, we adjust for differences in square footage, but we don't often think about what else that price per square foot entails. So heating and cooling, quality, condition. There's so many other factors that play into that potentially that I don't think we always do a good job of taking a step back and looking at the whole picture to say, okay, does it all add up? Does it add up to that sale price? Like, I know this property, comparable one, sold for this total amount, and that reflects the land and the improvements and all the market reaction, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep. And I've heard some very wise and well-studied appraisers make the argument that baked into GLA adjustments are issues of location, issues of externalities. All that stuff is kind of baked into the numbers. And I think it's really important. The thing I'd like that you pointed out is we look at these things as single point adjustments, like one line item. I'm going to adjust for this. I had an old boss years ago, Heather, that said to me, and his name was Mike Ishii, and Mike was an MAI, one of the smartest people I've ever worked with, just a pleasure of a human being to learn from. But Mike would build these intricate discounted cash flows and do like really complicated math to support his work. But he always said, Hal, at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to get a lawn chair and a 6-pack of beer, sit across the street from the subject and say, is this thing really worth what I said it's worth?
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes missing. We don't stop and look at the whole picture and say, what's this thing really worth?
Yeah, that qualitative analysis I use regularly just as a check and balance for myself. I'm a very analytical person. I like to account for every dollar in that sale price and be able to tell you exactly how I did all my computations and everything like that. Like I'm 100% a full supporter of that, but I also think that there is this qualitative aspect of we're supposed to be representing the market, and they're not out there all the time with, I'm going to add this amount for this and this amount for that, and at the end of the day, this is the exact number I'm going to offer. And so that really comes into play in a lot of situations to just, does it make sense that I put the appraised value here? Does it make sense that a buyer would be willing to pay this for the pool or for whatever feature? Or are they even going to notice that these windows are 15 years old versus 20 years old? I also think a lot of times about, how much time they spend in the house to make a decision, especially in this market. It's like, you have 15 minutes to go in and make an offer on the house of your dreams. And the reality is a lot of stuff gets overlooked, and a lot of stuff is not as relevant as when you get time to research it, to get, a home inspection, to really sit and mull over different things and compare it to others. So even just the current market we're in has changed how I think we should be thinking about adjustments.
Yeah, and that brings up another interesting thought. I live in Nashville, and 2 years ago, Nashville was insane. Like people were buying homes. They would send their agent to the house with a cell phone and videotape, showed them the video feed on a Zoom call, and they would make the purchase decision there in California. You buy the house sight unseen, but they were relying on what amounted to a property data collector gathering information for them to make a very important personal decision. At the end of the day, I mean, before we get to the next commercial break, back to the issue of showing your work and showing support of your adjustments. Let me ask you this, Heather. If I give you an appraisal report, and let's just say it's a beautiful report, it's well put together, but I say I derived my adjustments using linear regression, paired sales, depreciated cost, all the stuff, and then I just present my adjustments. That's option one. Option two is I show you the paired sales analysis. I show you the discount, the linear regression. I show you the depreciated cost analysis. And then, they're not going to be right on top of each other. They almost never are. So I'm going to do some reconciliation for my adjustment things, all businesses. If there's a question about, it's the same property, it's the same value conclusion, everything's the same. If there's a question, which one do you think is going to get more revision requests?
When somebody can't answer their own question when they're reviewing your appraisal report, that is what creates revision requests. So if I know what method you used, what data you used, what the results were, how you calculate it, like if you just show me how you got to that conclusion, then it doesn't leave a lot of questions of how it got there. Most of the time, what I see is just stating the obvious. I made this price per square foot adjustment. That's not the analysis. The analysis is, how did you get to that price per square foot? How did you get to that condition adjustment? Show me where the math is. Appraising is very scientific. I know we say it's an art, and I truly believe it's also an art, but I think the art comes in the reconciliation piece. And the science is all the different methods and techniques that come up with different answers. It never always lines up perfectly. Right. It's a lot of times it lines up a lot better than we would think. So I encourage everybody to go through the motions of doing the different methods and techniques. But that reconciliation is really when you get to use your art and your experience and your knowledge. Everything else should be a fact-finding mission. And if we can just present that, paired sales, I reviewed, like I said, I reviewed a lot of reports, and it's like, I use the paired sale analysis. Okay. That tells me nothing. what pair did you use? Did you even take the next step and adjust for all the other differences first before, so that I can see that that number that you're applying is truly just for the feature that you're using to support your adjustment. So there's a lot of, those are the things that I think we should take time in doing as appraisers that we can't really skip corners on. Whereas, some of the data entry and all of that, they don't need a lengthy explanation. It's like
Right.
on the things that are our analysis that we want them to trust and believe are accurate, let's take a little bit more time. And really, as a reader of the report, you should trust what you did as well.
Yeah. I love it. Well, let's do this. Let's take a real quick break. We'll hear from one of our commercial sponsors. We'll be right back.
Sounds good.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense, benefiting over 10,000 real estate professionals nationwide. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Heather Sullivan from Aloft. Heather, thank you again for taking the time to be here. You're going to be joining us at the upcoming Valuation Expo in Las Vegas. We're so excited about that. You're going to be presenting a free class for appraisers. Talk to me about that class. What is that?
Yes. So I just finished developing a free 4-hour Mastering Market-Based Adjustments course. It's going to dive into everything from market trend analysis to site extraction, depreciated cost. It does sensitivity analysis and allocation. And we really, throughout that class, we take 3 different case studies and look at the big picture. And we do all the adjustments and make sure at the end of class that we all understand how those adjustments were derived. But then I think the thing that I'm most excited about the course is we use this paired cost framework that assures that we've accounted for all the differences between the properties, and then we compare our results. I think the best learning tool for appraisers, for me personally, is to be able to understand, okay, I know this is how I was thinking through this case study, but I also want to see how my peers would think through this case study. Are we getting a similar outcome if we maybe think about, I thought this quality was this and they thought the quality was slightly different? Like, where do we land? And so the best thing I think about the course is the fact that we get to peer share and kind of level set. And I think I just taught it for the first time here up at Washington State. And it was fantastic to hear the conversation and actually see how when we do apply the similar methods, techniques, not all the same, but multiple ones, we get to a point where we're pretty close between our outcomes. And I think that's just reiterates what we're doing and how accurate and important appraisals are.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're going to be teaching that class.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, I think Aloft is going to be involved in a panel discussion about adjustments. Tell me what you know about that.
Yeah. So we'll also be involved in I think it's 90-minute panel discussion about just adjustment support in all different aspects of appraising. It'll have Kevin Hecht with McKissick and Jared Priesler with Data Master, and we're going to just talk about all the different aspects of deriving and supporting adjustments and what that looks like, what tools we have available. And it should be a great conversation. It's such a big conversation in this industry today about supporting our adjustments, showing our support. And so we really hope to hit it home of all the different tools and best practices that appraisers have out there and what really helps to communicate our results to the client.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Jim Morrison, are you still in the room with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us the details about Val Expo, the exact dates, all that business.
Yeah, so the whole event is August 19th through the 21st. We're at Caesar's Palace this year, so we're so excited about that. But it's really customizable. Like we mentioned, you can take Heather's pre-conference class, get those 4 hours of free CE, then go to the pool, or, if you're a glutton for punishment and want as much CE as you can get up to 21 hours of CE and attend the whole conference and join us there. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're really excited for it.
Yeah, and for the appraisers out there listening, and I know that not all of our listeners are active appraisers, but for the appraisers out there listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast, here's the thing. You come to the conference because you get continuing education. You come to the conference because you get to get updates from the GSEs and the VA and HUD and FHA. You come to the conferences for a number of reasons, not the least of which is you come to the conference to do some networking. But this year, we've got several people talking about the specifics of adjustments and showing your work. And I think seriously, this year, if you've never been to a Valuation Expo before, this should be your first year because you're going to get some really good hands-on pointers and tips and tricks, things you can take back to your office the following day and start using in your appraisal practice that will help you be a better appraiser, but also a more credible appraiser, someone that doesn't get so many revision requests, those kind of things. So Heather, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for being a part of Val Expo. Morrison, before I let Heather off the hook, do we have an anonymous appraiser question that we could tackle today?
We do. So these anonymous appraiser questions are questions from our audience, either through the comments on our YouTube or Appraisal Buzz or in the forums. So this one says, I have a screened-in porch that was converted to a Four Seasons room and enclosed. The main heating and air does not go into this room, but I have attached a wall-mounted heating and air device for the room that adjusts the temp. Would I be able to include this in the square footage?
Heather?
I was just going to say, I think ANSY says this, if it's typical to the market. If I remember correctly, it's kind of on a market to market basis. And so if it's kind of a standard approach to living area, then I believe it gets counted in. And if it's not, then I would say it's substandard and would be excluded. Hal, you want to help me out with any more?
No, I'm just going to hang out there and struggle with it a little bit longer. No, I mean, look, ANSI doesn't actually say anything at all about heat and air. It allows for the fact that if you're in Hawaii, there may be no heat and air. There's no need for it in a lot of spots out there. So it's not so much a matter of the main heating not going into that room. If it's typical for the market and it's usable square footage and it is climate controlled like the rest of the house, and people in that market accept it as finished square footage, then sure, count it. If not, don't. And just because something doesn't meet the criteria for GLA, for above ground finished square footage, as ANSI would say, doesn't mean it doesn't have any value. If you make the determination that this doesn't meet the ANSI standard for above ground finished square footage, but it carries the exact same, an equivalent value for the extra square footage, then I call a dog's tail a leg, and a dog's tail only has 4 legs.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add is ANSI is a really small document. So I would go out to it. I would just search heating and cooling and just see where it's referenced or not referenced. And I think you'll find that there's a lot of flexibility based off of what's typical for the market and what is typical for the rest of the house.
And when Heather says the ANSI standards is a very small document, there are 3 pages of standards and they're not full pages. Like I think it's a 16-page document and 3 of them are standards. The rest is like
illustrations.
Think about illustrations or FAQs and advisory opinions. It's just like, here's the standard. And then there's, 13 other pages of stuff, including a title page telling you how to apply the standards, do that stuff. But yes, pick up the ANSI standard, read through it. And this is one of those cases where as an appraiser, you're going to have to make an informed decision based on your research and analysis. Does this market see this as finished square footage? In which case, yeah, go for it.
All right. Well, I think that's a good answer for us.
As usual, we kind of run all the way around Robin Hood's barn and say, here's the answer, but wait, it doesn't have to be that. It could be something else. And yeah, so yeah, we do the best we can to muddy the waters as much as possible.
Always glad to help.
Well, Jim, do we have anything else we need to cover today?
Nope, that's it. Just everybody come join us at Val Expo in August.
Heather,
Bring your
thank you.
laptops. Get ready
Heather,
to dive into adjustments.
Heather, thank you again for being here. And after the 4-hour class, will there actually be a classroom session in the pool to discuss how to deal with adjustments? Is that?
Yeah, we're going to test our waterproof smartphones out.
I love it. All right. Well, can't wait to see you in Las Vegas, Heather. Everybody else out there listening to us today, I can't wait to see you in Las Vegas, Caesar's Palace. We would love to see you there. For Jim Morrison and Heather Sullivan, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.